Hmm? Yeah, that's good. Oh, now we'll start the recording. Now that you missed my joke, Jonathan, please.
Thank you, Rabbi. I am delighted to have this opportunity to talk to my community about my latest creation, a book that I suppose has been in the works for a long time. The book called The Whirl of Words. When I say it's been in the works for a long time, if you look back at the roots of it, it's probably from childhood. A more recent origin of the book would be that it came about from my first year on CBC Radio as the puzzling professor. And many people asked me to put the puzzles that I presented on air, write a book. So this book is the result of that. Professionally, you know that I work with numbers. I'm a statistician. Data, that is my vocation. But my passion is words, and whether I'm writing them or singing them, speaking them, or playing with them, that's my passion. And so that means, although numbers are my vocation, words are my avocation. A fancy word for hobby. What connects them? What connects numbers and words? And the answer is, my answer is pattern recognition. The ability to see patterns. And in fact, the delight comes from finding patterns when you least expect them. If we add music into this mix too, the ability to create or enjoy music, that's also pattern recognition. So words and music and numbers, it's all about patterns. And humans are a pattern-seeking species. We look for patterns. We love patterns. We find them everywhere. We also like mysteries. We like puzzles. We like questions that we think have a solution, and we like looking for them. If you just think about how many books there are in the mystery section of a bookstore or a library, and you realize that we like bite-sized, solvable puzzles that there is an answer to. And in our complicated modern world, to be able to take refuge with a passion, a hobby, an activity where there is an answer and you can find that answer, that's quite comforting. So that's just a little bit of an introduction. But I'll show you how easy it is to find patterns. Rabbi, today is July the 14th, 2021, which means it's the seventh month, the 14th day, and the 21st year of this century. So you would write that as 7/14/21, and you realize, oh my goodness, those are three numbers that are all divisible by 7. So there's a pattern. If I look at Rabbi Infeld's name, I don't know if you've ever taken apart his surname, either taken it apart or added to it and rebuilt it. He knows this, but if you think baseball, and if you're not in the outfield, you're in the infield. And so if you remove the I, then it comes out as Infeld. And I'm sure Rabbi Infeld, maybe he can't count how many times he's been referred to as Rabbi Infield in his life. If you add 2 letters to the front of his name, I wonder how many of you have noticed this. If you add the letters S and E in front of Rabbi Infeld's name, then you get Seinfeld. Now, isn't that just a beautiful discovery to make about his name? If you add a letter to Infeld and rearrange, then you can get either unfiled, but his favorite, I know, is infidel. Rabbi Infidel just really has a wonderful ring to it. If you add 2 letters to Infeld, you can get, and rearrange, you can get finagled, flinched, friendly, inflamed, or sniffled. And all of this from just a little bit of adding a few extra parts to his name. If you take 1 letter away, you can get elfin, field, find, filed, lined, flied, as in flied out, or Felid, which is a cat. So there, Rabbi, is a little wordplay on your name.
Thank you, Jonathan. That was great. And that's a wonderful beginning. And of course, we know that we have been entertained and taught and delighted by your puzzles and word plays over many years. For me, it's 15 years. And tonight is going to be quite a wonderful, wonderful evening. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but I'm the lucky owner of this book. And you're going to talk a little bit more about this book as well, The World of Words, which is I've had the opportunity to look through and is absolutely fascinating and engaging. So as a professor at UBC, the owner of your own company of statistics and many other projects, I know that you've accomplished a lot. And here tonight, we are looking forward to learning even more with you, Jonathan. Thank you.
Thank you.
Of course, I know you teach at UBC, but I don't want to put you on the spot, but what if it's teaching at UBC or Purim, are they equally as important?
It's like trying to pick your favorite child, Rabbi. Or maybe trying to pick your favorite chocolate dessert. They are all tied for number one.
Perfect answer. Thank you, Jonathan.
Although because I am in front of my Beth Israel family, then to kind of paraphrase George Orwell, that all animals are equal, but some are more equal than others. Then Purim still stands at the pinnacle of my Beth Israel life.
We love it. Thank you, Jonathan. Please continue.
You mentioned that you've known me for 15 years. I want to just riff on that for a minute. This book started with an idea. I had an area of puzzles that's not very well explored. And I want to start there, and then we'll go back to talk more about the rest of the book. But it's the interface between math and language, which is my life. If you ask children for which is their preferred subject, do they prefer math or do they prefer language, you'll get generally most of the kids saying they like them both. It hasn't been socialized out of them. They aren't afraid of math. They just see it as another one of those life skills. Sadly, as we get older, math becomes something more challenging. And so what I tried to do was to find the interface between the two areas of words and numbers. And I did this by treating numbers not as mathematical concepts, but as words. So if you think of number names, that's a number spelled out as a word. And I could ask a simple question. I could say, alphabetically, or what number name comes first? So if you were to write out the names of all the numbers and put them in alphabetical order, what would come first in the dictionary? And you could think about this for a little while, and I won't put you on the spot, but what you would discover is that the answer is 8. 8 is the first, alphabetically first number. And then you notice that 8 is an even number. And so there's a follow-up question, which is, what is the alphabetically first odd number? And this is one of those examples of life life's problems, life's puzzles, life's conundrums, where what starts off as a simple question can take an interesting turn to the hard side. Your first answer to that question is going to be wrong. You'll think maybe 81 or something of that sort. And again, I won't leave this one as homework for you, but you'll have at some point an aha moment when it occurs to you that 8 million comes before 81 in alphabetical order. And then you continue down that route and you think, what would be even before million? And you get to billion. And it turns out that the alphabetically first number is 8,808,808,885. And you say, my goodness, how could such an easy question an easy one to phrase, easy one to pose. What's the alphabetically first number? It takes an interesting term. And so that's kind of a nice paradigm, or a nice, not paradigm, but example of how life can make interesting terms. We have a lucky number in Judaism. Well, let's say that in society has decided that 7 is a lucky number. If you define a lucky number to be one that has 7 letters, it turns out that there are only 3 numbers whose names have 7 letters. And the reason I'm mentioning this is because the rabbis know me for 15 years. 15 is one of those lucky numbers. It has 7 letters when you spell it, F-I-F-T-E-E-N. The next one is easy to find. Go up 1 and you get to 16. That also has 7 letters. And the next one, and the last one, you have to go a little further. It's 70. And you say, okay, so that's pretty interesting that there are only 3 of these lucky numbers. Now, in the non-Jewish world, it's been determined that 13 is an unlucky number. And so there's a definition of an unlucky number as one that has 13 letters. So I'm going to redefine this to say it's the other lucky number in Judaism. So 7 and 13. And the question is, can you find numbers that have 13 letters? The answer is there are a lot of them. So we'll refine the question to what is the smallest number that has 13 letters? And a bit of thought, you'll come up with 101. 13 letters to spell 101. And remember, we don't say the and. We might in speech say 101, but the formal name for the number is 101. So you say, okay, well, that's not so interesting either, but where is he going with this? Well, what were the 3 lucky numbers? The first lucky numbers, 15, 16, and 70. And if you add those, you get 101, the first of the unlucky numbers. And you say there is a completely unexpected pattern. And so really that's what intrigues me about words and numbers, but actually puzzles in general. When you were young, let me say this again. When you were younger, did you take things apart to see how they worked? And then occasionally put them back together, sometimes with pieces left over, sometimes there were pieces missing. I wasn't very good at doing that with tools, but I was really good at doing that with words. And so you can think about word puzzles as doing just that, exploring, taking apart, seeing what makes them tick, seeing how they fit together. And if you remember playing with building blocks, Lego, Tinker Toys, Meccano, anything, or more modern versions, Connects, you realize that you can make an infinite number of objects from these building blocks. There are only 10 digits, and we have an infinite number of numbers. We have 26 letters. So just think about what we could do with 26 letters instead of 10 digits. Wordplay goes back to, well, puzzles in general go back to the myths of antiquity. We don't know when the first puzzles were. We can find some puzzles in ancient papyruses from Egypt, the Rhind papyrus, but those tend to be mathematical puzzles. When you need language to get to word puzzles, and if we're going to do puzzles in English, we need the English language. So let's keep our brief history lesson to when were the first word puzzles in North America? And they actually go back to about the mid-1600s. So we've been playing with words for a long time, taking them apart and putting them back together. The idea of my book, I was thinking about how to explain it. It's a very green book because it's a hybrid. You can go to bookstores and find collections of puzzles. You might also be able to find the occasional book which is more academic. It's an explanation of the psychology of puzzles or the history of puzzles, but tends to be a much smaller audience, and as I said, much more technical, much more academic. My book was designed to do both of those. It was to both educate and entertain. So it talks about the history of all kinds of word puzzles, and I'll tell you a little bit about what those are, the kinds of puzzles, interspersed with puzzles to try. One of the questions that I get asked most often, or told most often, comments I hear is, oh, I'm not good at solving puzzles. You have to be really smart to do these. And my answer to them is, as long as you can read and write and speak the English language, you can do these puzzles. You just need some coaching on how to do them. And once you get that, then you'll start to appreciate them. So this book is accessible for those people who want to read a little bit about where puzzles come from. How do we play with words in our society? It's also for those people who would like a set of classic puzzles and modern puzzles to work with. I've collected these from a wide variety of sources over a long period of time. The hardest part about writing the book was deciding when to stop. When did I have enough puzzles? I don't think anybody will tell me that there aren't enough puzzles in the book. But you can easily read only the narrative and enjoy it, or you can read only the puzzles and enjoy it, or you can do both. And by the way, if you look at the puzzles and you say, I have no idea what the answer is, that's okay. Look up the answer. You'll get almost the same delight when you see what the answer is that I've shared with you than if you've solved it yourself. So that's a little bit about where the book is situated in the market and what the audience is. Who did I write the book for? For you. I wrote it for, well, actually I wrote it for me, but really I wrote it for everybody who said your puzzles are fascinating, put them in a book. So the book takes you through what's old is new again in puzzles. And you don't have to scratch too deeply to realize the ancient roots of what we think are modern puzzles. For example, the modern generation, in fact, or the younger generation, in fact, our generations who have learned to be modern, use emojis all the time when we are texting, when we're sending emails. Well, writing with pictures is not new. Just ask the ancient Egyptians. That's what hieroglyphics were. So we have thousands and thousands of years of writing with pictures. When you see the sign, the famous one that's got the letter I and then the heart, and then underneath it says NY, and you see I love New York. Well, the person who came up with that recognized that you don't need to write the word love. You can use a picture for that. So I heart New York, or I heart NY, and it's very clear what that means. That is a rebus. Anagrams have been around since the beginning of writing our language. You can find examples in ancient classical texts of playing with words, rearranging them. It does become something of an occupational hazard for me. I cannot go past a hotel in the Sheraton chain and see the name Sheraton and not notice that that's an anagram of North Sea. Now, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person that happens to, but it is, as I say, an occupational hazard. Or have you ever driven past the store PetSmart? So the next time you drive past a PetSmart, just stop and then back up and read the letters in reverse. And you realize that it's what you need to help get yourself onto a streetcar or a bus, because PetSmart backwards spells tram step. And so that's that awareness that you have. One of my jokes about me is that I am an observant Jew. But for me, that word observant can take on all kinds of meanings. And the meaning that I often mean is that I see things. I see patterns. I see them in letters. I see them in numbers. Other parts of the other chapters of the book, in addition to talking about history, tell you why it's good for your brain. So I'm going to ask you a question. If you tell somebody, or if somebody tells you, oh, I just got back from a workout, I can guarantee you think it's a physical workout. How many of you have ever considered going for a mental workout? and giving that just the as much importance as a physical workout, training your mind as well as training your body. So there is a mind-body connection, and we can train our mind to solve puzzles and be better at life through this through puzzle solving. So in the book, I give advice on how to solve puzzles. First of all, I talk about the equivalent of the stages of, well, shall we call it the 5 stages of grief, where you go through denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And I created a version of that for puzzle solving. So if I ask somebody, pose a puzzle for somebody, they will say, oh, there's no way I can solve it. That's denial. And then there's anger when they say, I'm not going to waste time thinking about it. I've heard that from people too. And then there's bargaining. They say, okay, well, but I'm going to need some hints. All right, I'll try it. All right. And then there's depression. It's too hard. I will never get it. And then there's acceptance. I got it. So I'm going to share with you the advice that I like to give on how you solve puzzles. Now, this is valuable advice. Doesn't mean you don't need to buy the whole book, but this is priceless, as they say in the MasterCard commercials. So the first piece of advice is the puzzle is in the details. Read the instructions carefully and then read them again. So I will illustrate with one of my all-time favorite puzzles. And it's connected with another aspect of the book, which is that puzzles are tremendous for pedagogy, for teaching. So here's the question. Think of the name of a country in the world and remove one S and get the name of another country in the world. And I will tell you, these are not obscure countries. You've heard them. So I'll ask the question again. Think of the name of a country, remove one S and get the name of another country. And you can type the answer into the chat if you get it. I will be impressed and delighted if you do. Now, this gets us to the idea that you had to listen very carefully. Sometimes you can see questions, sometimes you can hear them. There are different game shows on TV where you either only hear the question or you see the question. Jeopardy is successful because you both hear it and see it. And I don't see the chat filling up with any answers. And so I'm going to put Gaynor on the spot. Gaynor, I want you to repeat to me what the question was that I just asked.
So think of a country in the world.
Yep.
And take one S out of the name, yep, and you'll get another country.
Very good. So you were listening very carefully.
I was trying to make it South Africa, but it wouldn't work.
Shall I ask Rabbi Enfeld to repeat the question to me?
Take any country in the world, remove the S, and you have the name of another country.
Now, did you hear the difference between Gaynor asking the question and the rabbi asking the question? Gaynor got it right because she said remove one S. The rabbi said remove the S. But I did say remove one S. And now I'll ask you, how do you spell the word one? O-N-E. So what I asked you to do was to remove one S from the name. So I want you to remove O-N-E-S to get another country. And so the two countries are both in Asia, and maybe it's dawned on you, Indonesia. And if you remove one S, you get India. So now you realize that you have to listen carefully. This is good advice when the rabbi is giving his sermons. Pay attention to everything he says because all aspects of it are important. There's another one related to that. You can try this on unsuspecting friends or who will become former friends. You ask them to take the word bead, B-E-A-D, and add one H somewhere in the word to get a new word. And they'll struggle with it for a while until you point out that you said add one H, and it'll make them it'll describe how they feel when they hear the answer, and it becomes bonehead. So again, listening very carefully is the first step. The second is assess the challenge. Does it seem like a puzzle that you can get? Does it seem like it's a doable puzzle? So you got to see, does it require specialized knowledge? I told you that they were well-known countries in the world, so that meant okay, I think I can do that. It's not tiny, let's say, tiny African countries that you may not be familiar with. The second advice is don't just sit there, try something. So I'll quote Leonard Cohen. There is a crack in everything. That's where the light gets in. So that's actually how you solve a puzzle as well. You have to figure out where the crack is in the puzzle. So write something down. The paralysis that you might be feeling by not doing anything isn't going to get you to the answer to the puzzle or to get you anywhere in solving life's problems. You can't just sit there. You have to try something. Next one is don't give up. Persist. Remember that there actually is an answer. So unlike some of life where there isn't an answer, in this case there is. And here's a little glimpse into the inner workings of puzzledom. Puzzles are unlike sports where there's a winner and a loser, and you don't want to be the loser. But in the world of puzzles, whoever has created the puzzle wants to lose. They created the puzzle so that you can solve it. That's a victory for you, and it actually becomes then a victory for the puzzle creator. So we want to lose. We want you to solve the puzzles, and we'll give you the hints along the way. Persist. Have you ever had a problem that you went to sleep with? You had no idea what the answer was, and somehow by falling asleep, it clears out the pipes, and you wake up in the morning with a blinding clarity and say, "Well, that's the answer." The same thing happens with puzzles. You get that sort of clarity by putting it aside for a bit, and then coming back to it and seeing it from a different way. Open your toolbox. So look at things in a variety of ways. You can look at them upside down, sideways, but see if one strategy doesn't work, maybe another one will. I'm going to show you one of my favorites. I'm going to share the screen just for a moment here. And let me just, oops. Okay, so you should be able to see a white piece of paper. And I'm going to make a little sequence of numbers. You say, oh, back to numbers again, but maybe. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So the question is that is a sequence of numbers. A sequence means there are no more. You're not trying to say what comes next. But the question is, what does that sequence of numbers represent? And you look at that and you say, well, what toolbox or what tools do I need to try to figure this out? So the first tool that you might apply is something you learned when you were a kid, counting. So the first thing you would do is you would count these up, and you would discover that I've written 26 numbers. And you say, oh, what comes in 26s? Non-alcoholic 26s. What comes in a package of 26? And you say, well, in gematria, that's Yud He Vav He, but that's not where we're going here. 26 is, it'll say in the chat, I'm sure, the letters of the alphabet. Excellent. And Grace, don't look at the chat because Grace has the answer very, very, very quickly. The next step is to say, okay, well, if these represent the letters, how many ones do we have? Well, we have 22 ones here. So there's 22 ones. And then there's a 3 and then 3 more ones. And you say, oh, what is the 23rd letter of the alphabet? And it's W. And you say, oh, well, that almost looks like a W. If you turn it that way, it kind of looks like a W. And then you have the last 3 letters. Well, that's not the answer either. because the ones don't look like any of the other letters of the alphabet. So the next tool that you use is, well, maybe looking at it isn't the right answer or the right way to do it. The next tool is to hear what it sounds like. So if this were in person, I would ask you all in unison to recite the alphabet song. And you can try it for yourself. I'll just take you through this. It would be A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J, K, L, M, N, O, P, Q, R, S, T, U, V. And then you stop there at W, and then you continue X, Y, Z. But you realize that, as Grace pointed out in the chat, all of these letters have only a single syllable in them. When you get to W, it's unique because it's the only letter that has 3 syllables. All the others are only 1 syllable. And so you've got a beautiful pattern in the letters. And you realize, yep, I could have got that. I just didn't look at it necessarily the right way. I did start by telling you that there are patterns everywhere. Have you, you're sitting in front of your computer, so this one is easy for you to do, but just take a look at, first of all, the shape of a letter W. And remember, I told you it's the 23rd letter. And you'll see that there are 2 points up here, and there are 3 points down here. So there's the 2 and the 3 that make up a W. But look at your computer keyboard and ask yourself, where is the letter W on the keyboard? What are the two characters that are directly above it? And you say, oh my goodness, there's a 2 and a 3 right above the W. And you will never look at the keyboard without noticing that ever again. Those are the delightful patterns that we can find. There are some other ones in mathematics related to the W, but that's one of my favorites. Back to using puzzles as pedagogy. It's well known that math puzzles and challenges are great for teaching math to kids, but so are word puzzles. So this is for the Americans. Well, the Americans in the room might have an advantage if I ask this question, but actually Canadians know probably more about the United States than Americans do. So Rabbi, here's your challenge. Can you think of the name of a US state that comprises 2 words that are opposites of one another with a single letter in between them? So you have a single word, a letter, and then another word, all stuck together, and those 2 words, not the middle letter, those 2 words are opposites of one another. And you think, well, this is actually a finite search because there are only 50 US states. So how hard could this be? But you've never looked at the US states that way before. And while you're thinking about that, let me pose a second question. The USA is a big place. Although it's smaller than Canada, the USA is only the 4th largest country by area in the world. But you can actually find the letters USA smack in the middle of 2 cities in the world. How fast can you come up with the 2 cities that have the letters USA right in the middle? One of them you should get almost immediately. The other one is harder.
Jerusalem.
Jerusalem is correct. Do you want to go for the daily double, Jeffrey, and tell me what the harder one is? It's in Asia. No. That would be Busan or Busan in South Korea. But Jerusalem it's a really cool thing to notice for all of us that in the heart of Jerusalem you find USA. That's just a beautiful pattern to notice. One of the words that we encounter in our Siddur is sovereignty. Sovereignty is a unique word in the English language. And it's because of the pattern of the letters. And when you get to almost the very end of the word sovereignty, you will see the letters G-N-T, if you spelled it correctly, in the conventional way of spelling sovereignty. It is the only English word that has those 3 letters all in a row. And the next time you open up your Siddur and you notice that word, there'll be a little smile on your face and people sitting beside you, because they'll be sitting beside you again. Thank God for that. They'll wonder, what are you smiling at? And you'll just point out what you discovered, and you don't have to tell them that you learned it from me. That's actually another kind of pattern recognition. Do you think there is a word in the English language that has these three letters all in a row? W, K, and then W? I mean, that word seems like, well,
Awkward.
that would be a very awkward set of letters to work with, and awkward is it. So Lewis Carroll, among others, came up with a game that he called Mishmash. Other people have done the same idea, and that is to take a string of three letters and see if you can find a word in the language that has those three letters in it. And it's way more fun if it's a unique word. So I'll give you two to think of and see how fast Grace can get these. Can you come up with a word that has the letters UIA, which is fantastic for us in the Jewish community, United Israel Appeal? UIA, there's only one English word, a common English word, that has those three letters all in a row. The second one that I want to ask you about is UFA, not UFO, UFA. And you say, well, that doesn't seem unusual. UFA, how hard could that be? But there's really only one common word that has UFA in the middle as well. So there's another way of searching for patterns. Is any of this good for your brain? The answer is yes, although the research is ongoing. When it comes to neurons and how the brain functions, it's use it or lose it, just as muscles in the body. So we don't know what the effect is of doing a daily crossword puzzle on maybe preventing or staving off neurological issues, dementia, and so on. But we do know that the ability to retrieve information, memory, spelling, logic, pattern recognition, all of those are aspects of a healthy brain. And so if you want to enjoy the later years of your life, because none of you are at the very late years of your life, just later years of your life, then keep doing puzzles, because the result will only be positive. And if you ask me the question, does it matter what kind of puzzle? I'll give you two answers. No, and then yes. So the no part is, if you're doing Sudoku, well, that's good for keeping the brain lubricated, but you won't learn anything from Sudoku. You won't learn any new facts about how the world is put together. But if you do a crossword puzzle, you will. You will learn facts. You will learn interesting ways of seeing the world differently. Here, I'll give you one more example. The word Canada alternates vowels and consonants. It's lovely that way. It takes turns, vowels, consonants. What is the longest country name that alternates vowels and consonants? And now you get to travel. So puzzles about world geography are fantastic. They were especially fantastic during the pandemic when you couldn't travel except in your mind. So you could go around the world thinking about puzzles, word puzzles, instead of visiting the place. Any answers to the longest country name that alternates vowels and consonants? And it doesn't matter whether it starts with a vowel or starts with a consonant. I'll give you a hint. The name has actually 3 words to it. And it's pretty close to Israel. And it starts.
Is it Lebanon?
Nope.
No.
It's got 3 words to it, 3 parts to its name.
Sorry, I missed that.
Tajikistan.
Nope. I want 3 separate parts to the name.
United Arab Emirates.
United Arab Emirates is the correct answer. And now to tell you what the UFA word is and the UIA word, the UFA word is manufacture. It's unusual that word is unusual. Sorry, that's the UFA word. And the UIA word, colloquial. It is the only word in English that has that string of letters. So what I hope these puzzles have that I've shared with you today, I hope what it's done for you is to say, I think I'm going to look at the world around me differently. I'm going to be open to patterns. I'm going to try to see if I can connect things in a different way. And when you do find patterns where none were expected, you'll just get that little shiver of delight that I do, as when I was preparing to do the 5 minutes with not a BI rabbi that I did the other day. And I wondered if I could find a connection between Purim and Tisha B'Av, which seemed like diametrically opposed holidays. And when I looked at Tisha B'Av, I took it apart, took the letters, not in Hebrew, I can only do this in English. I took the letters apart and I found the name Vashti with a couple of letters left over. The leftover letters spell the month of Av. So if you hadn't seen the piece that I did, I'll tell it to you now. In the letters Tisha B'Av, you will see the A from Tisha and the B from B'Av. And AB in the English dictionaries is the transliteration of the month of Av. So in Tisha B'Av, you actually have the month of Ab. The letters on the outside, TISH and the AV, can be rearranged to spell Vashti. And what's the connection? Vashti was exiled, and when our temples were destroyed, the Jews suffered a spiritual exile. You can find patterns everywhere. You just need to open your mind to it. And when you do, your mind will function better. And you'll be able to solve not just the little puzzles that come on the entertainment pages of the newspaper or in my book, but maybe it'll help you solve life's problems better. Rabbi, over to you.
Excellent. Beautiful job, Jonathan. Thank you.
In the chat, Heather has pointed out, tell us the name of the state. Did anybody come up with a state that has two opposites with a letter in between? It's in New England.
I was going to say Washington, but I guess not.
Nope. It's in New England. Does that help?
Connecticut.
Connecticut it is, because you connect and the opposite is to cut. So connect, and of course, when you pronounce it, Connecticut, you don't hear the connect part, but when you see it, there's that word, connect. Seeing, hearing, all parts of puzzle solving.
Jonathan, when you said Israel is close to the United Arab Emirates, did you mean geographically or politically now?
One of the great things about the world of puzzles is that we steer clear of politics, religion, economics. all of life's problems disappear when we do puzzles. So it was not political.
Excellent. No, because it's true, they're now politically allied, right?
It is, but that's area for other people to talk about. Correct.
Jonathan, can you tell us?
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you tell us how to find your book?
Thank you. Yes. So there's a website, and I will put it in the chat. It's a pretty easy website to find, because it is the title of the book, theworldofwords.com. If you go to that website, you will find a description of the book, lots about it, and also where it can be ordered through Friesen Press or Amazon. And if you want to help me make this book a success, contact your local bookstores and say, you really need to carry this book. So I haven't yet had a chance to do that, but when the Jewish community mobilizes, we do amazing things. So I'm counting on help from my friends. And I can also tell you that I have a few copies in my collection too. And if we can arrange it properly, I can sell you one from my collection.
And also, Jonathan, if I wanted to hear you on the radio, would you happen to be on the radio at some point?
You're really good at marketing, and I appreciate it. This is the first of well, I shouldn't call it a sequel, but my next book is on its way. It's mostly written, but it's not yet at the stage where it's ready for publication. It's not fully written yet, but some of you have heard me as another persona I have as the word guy on CBC's North by Northwest. So once a month, I do a segment on the program, anything about the English language that I want to speak to. So that is going to be the subject of the next book. And I suspect I will be on the radio again in not this weekend, but the following weekend. And in the chat, I've put my business website, because you can find audio recordings of my audio on CBC. If you go to the tab that says resources, and then click on Word Guy, you'll find those audio clips. I didn't come up with the name. The host, Cheryl McKay, came up with the name, but I am known as the Word Guy.
Excellent. Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for this excellent presentation. We all really enjoyed it, and despite the fact that it's the summer, and despite the fact that we've been on Zoom for many, many months, and our numbers actually have been weaning a little bit, you certainly brought many, many people out for this evening. So yesher koach, beautiful job, and please note.
Can I just explain why I'm kind of the logical person to be speaking and teaching online? Because my students know me as the king of one-liners. And I pointed out to them that there's only a single letter difference between being an onliner and a
one-liner. It's a cock. I want to just make note that Saturday night is Tisha B'Av, as Jonathan mentioned, and on Saturday night we have a dinner followed by a program on anti-Semitism with Dr. Jay Eidelman and Ezra Schenken, and with me on anti-Semitism yesterday, today, and tomorrow, followed by the reading of Echa. So please join us on Saturday night. And I also I wanted to mention, Jonathan, you spoke so beautifully in the 5 minutes of someone who's not a BI rabbi about the connection, as you mentioned, between Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, or I mean in Purim rather, and Purim. However, you may know that there is a direct connection between Purim and Yom Kippur, that the rabbis actually say that when the Mashiach comes, we'll celebrate just Purim and Yom Kippur, and that's it. And of course, we also know that Yom Kippur and Tisha B'Av are tied directly together. We derive the same laws for Tisha B'Av from Mishnah Yoma, which are the laws of Yom Kippur. So I thought that was quite interesting, except for the fact that we're allowed to cook and use electricity on Tisha B'Av. We're just not allowed to eat and drink and have sex and adorn ourselves with oils. You touched on one thing.
I would have covered that, but you only gave me 5 minutes.
You touched on something that I actually I was wondering if we could finish with a little bit more on, which is puzzles in the midst of Tkvat Corona, as we say in Hebrew, and the time of COVID. And I was wondering, I know that you are part of a number of social groupings, your Beth Israel family, of course, being one of those primary groupings. We also have a social grouping in the puzzle world. And I know that you attend puzzle conferences every year. And I was wondering what has happened with that puzzle social community over the last year. Has it decreased? Has it increased? What's been going on with that community?
The same thing happened in that world as happened to many of us. We lost the personal contact being in the same room, but we discovered that we could join events from a distance. We didn't have to leave our home to sign in. We could stream symphony concerts. We could join services without even having to be fully attired. You could take part in courses around the world. You didn't have to be physically in that location. The same thing happened in our puzzle league. We sacrificed having our annual in-person convention, but it didn't mean that we couldn't still communicate online the way we do with so many other aspects of life. And I'll just give you one illustration for me. There are two huge puzzle events in the United States each year. One is called the Mystery Hunt at MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and that's probably the granddaddy of them all. But the second one is the Microsoft Puzzle Hunt. And this happened in May. I was invited to be part of a team because many of the regulars couldn't actually gather, and so it was done virtually. And so I joined a team of 12 fellow puzzle solvers from my National Puzzlers League, and we were across North America, and yet we were all able to do the puzzles online with the help of Zoom and Slack and Google Docs and all of the technology. We weren't together, but in many ways we were together. So we have survived and thrived, and I think people recognize the power of puzzles. Even just look at how many jigsaw puzzles were purchased and then put together. I got old jigsaw puzzles out of storage and redid them on the dining room table too. The pandemic narrowed our world, but it also widened our world in other ways.
Beautiful. Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you for your excellent presentation. And we look forward to hearing many more wonderful puzzles and conundrums and intellectual challenges coming from you for many, many services and years to come. So
thank you, Rabbi, and thank you to my Beth Israel family. Thanks for joining me tonight and letting me share my passions for things. Heather often says that the difference between me and other people who have the kind of peculiar skill set that I do is that I share my passions with others and try to bring them along and help them see the joy that I see in things too. So thank you for being there to let me have somebody to share with.
Thank you, Jonathan.
Thanks, Bill.
everyone should feel free to say thank you. And to say whatever.
Thank you very much, Jonathan. Thank
תודה
you.
רבה.
Thanks, Jonathan. I have a question for you, if you don't mind.
As always.
You were fantastic, Jonathan.
Oh yeah, it was wonderful.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Jonathan.
You get an A+, you get the highest mark.
Hello, Esther.
Aw, thank you.
תודה ולילה טוב.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you, Jonathan.
My pleasure. Bill, nice to see you again.
Yes, so I never miss an opportunity to miss an opportunity. And I do the National Post puzzle every morning, but when it asks me the name of an actress in 1922, I have no idea.
So a little piece of wisdom from Will Shorts, the editor of the New York Times crossword puzzle. He says, and others agree, when we make a puzzle and give it to you to solve, it's now your puzzle. You can solve it any way you want. If you need to use Google to do it, fine. Use Google. It's not cheating. In fact, what it does is open up the world. And you know that you never just look up one thing on Google and you end up going down interesting garden paths into rabbit holes. And what you learn by going to try to look up the word you were looking for is it's marvelous.
The puzzle of its own.
Yep. Yep.
Thank you, Jonathan.
It's not cheating. It's called research.
Love it.
Jonathan, I was wondering if I could share a puzzle from my profession.
Yeah.
Okay, it's a story. I won't ruin it for everybody by saying it here, but it's called the 500-mile email. It's a story about how a group of statisticians actually discovered that they couldn't send email more than 500 miles. Have you heard it?
Yes, I have.
Okay, yeah. Sorry. Of course you've heard it.
Yeah. It's always a good challenge. I love when people share puzzles with me or stories with me. Chances are pretty good, but that's how my collection grows. When I do eventually get brand new puzzles for people. So
I do have one more thing to share. I was wondering if you're aware of the sort of wordplay associated with the Unix operating system and its derivatives.
A little bit, little bit about it. Yeah, the interface. When you look at the members of our National Puzzlers League, it won't surprise you to know that certainly maybe a generation ago, a huge proportion were a disproportionate number were Jewish. But the careers, it's math and statistics and computer science and software development, and it's everybody with kind of this quantitative mind that's then applied to the patterns of words and letters. So it really is a typical mind, and one of the we share characteristics. We often say that we get together at our annual convention because it's important for 3 or 4 days of the year to spend time with people from your home planet.
Yeah, I can relate to that.
Any puzzles you want to share with me?
Thank you.
Pleasure.
Jonathan, that was a fascinating presentation.
Thanks, Norman. Anybody up for another little geography puzzle?
Sure.
Okay.
Think of a country. This is one of the early puzzles in the book. Think of a country whose name can be, it's a single word, but you can divide it into 3 separate English words, but you can do it that way. You can do it twice. So it divides into 3 words in 2 different ways. So in other words, you're taking the string of letters and you're kind of putting in some fences, but where you put the fences, you'll get 3 separate words, but you can put the fences, take them out, and then relocate them and get another split into three words.
Connecticut.
No, country, he said.
Oh, country.
Country.
What
And
word is it?
if you want a hint, just ask for it.
What kind of word is that?
Say again?
Morocco?
Oh,
JK.
how would you split that into 3 words?
More cocoa.
Well, more MOR won't work.
No. No. 3 words.
You want to know the number of letters or the continent, or what would you like?
Barcelona.
Continent.
Scott, it's the continent. It is in Asia. You've heard of it.
Continent in Asia? A country in Asia.
A country in Asia.
Bangladesh by any chance?
Nope.
Wait, like look at my map.
And I'm really fascinated watching your faces, because each of you thinks with different facial expressions. Some of you, I can see you look up to read the inside of your forehead because maybe the answer is there. And for some, you can see steam coming out the ears. That's also interesting.
Yeah. Singapore.
That's it. Singapore it is, because Singapore could be in and then gap and then or it's sing and then a simple word and then pour. So it's a really lovely looking place. So it's a way of going on a trip around the world without leaving your armchair or your couch.
The whirl of words.
So if you wake up in the middle of the night, dreaming about, thinking about these things, that's on you, not me. And I can tell you that it happens to me all the time.
Jonathan, I was interested in your comparison of crossword puzzles and Sudoku, where the crossword puzzle has more content and more information. I agree with you. I'm also wondering if you agree with my assessment of Sudoku and Ken. I prefer Ken because you're actually doing mathematics. Whereas in Sudoku, really, you're just doing logic. It has nothing to do with the actual numbers.
Correct. I agree with you. Yeah. I only end up doing Sudoku if I can't find any other puzzle anywhere around to work on. and I usually can find another puzzle to do. In fact, if I can't find a puzzle to do, then I start constructing them myself.
Interesting.
We've been doing jigsaw puzzles, Jonathan. Would you like our dog one?
No, thanks. I have Heather and I have now figured out how to do them on the iPad too. So we've got puzzles coming out all our ears.
All your ears.
Her too and mine. I want to point out again patterns. We know that our alphabet has vowels and consonants, and you know that there are only 5 or maybe 6, depending on usage, vowels, the A, E, I, O, U, and Y. And have you ever noticed what position they are in the alphabet? So A is 1, E is 5, I is 9, O is 15, U is 21, and Y is 25. And you say, those are all odd numbers. Huh, I wonder if that works in other languages as well. So that's homework for you. I'm only working on this in English, but you can do it. You can see if maybe it happens in other languages. Rather interesting. Interesting to think of.
Well, not too many.
And speaking of other, yes, there's an infinite number of numbers, but there's only one number where the letters, when you spell the word, are in alphabetical order. What is the only number where the letters are in alphabetical order when you spell it? And I'll give you a hint, it's less than 100. So it's a finite search.
Okay. Yep. Yes.
Say again?
40?
40 it is. F-O-R-T-Y. And then of course there's a mystery. And this takes you from puzzledom to linguistics and the history of our language. So 4 has a U in it. 14 has a U in it. Why is there no U in 40? What happened to it? The answer is we don't know. It used to be there in the time of Chaucer, it was there. It seems to have fallen out and nobody commented. And they said, okay, that's 40. So there it is. One of those unsolved mysteries in the world of linguistics. But it's a cool fact about the number 40. Rabbi, thanks for the opportunity to do this.
Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you. Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thank you.
Night.
Thank you.
Can I leave you with a one-liner joke?
Yes.
Yeah.
A priest and an imam and a rabbit walk into a blood bank, and the nurse says, "One of you must be a type O."
Very cute.
I hope it's the priest.
It's a good way to end.
Yes. Have a good night. Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay, good night. Thank you.